All righty. Do I need to put this on right here?
Yes.
Mic check. We good? Good morning, everybody. Most of you know me, but for those that don't, I'm Brother Jonathan, visiting from Mesa. So if you're ever down in the valley and you want to come to church, you can come visit us in the Mesa branch. And we love visiting you guys up here. A couple things I want to thank the Lord for today. It's special for me to get to be here. This is the first time I've seen your building finished. That's super exciting. I know it's old for you guys. You guys are like, yeah, we've been here for 4 months. It's old hat. We've moved on. But for me, this is exciting. So it turned out really beautiful. Praise God. It's really, really a blessing.
Well, Brother Jonathan, a lot of these guys might not know that you're the one that constructed it, or whatever you call it.
Okay. So my natural profession, because we as ministers of the church, we don't get paid. This isn't our job. This is our spiritual calling. We have natural professions, and so I'm an architect. And Brother Michael is a general contractor. Brother Emil was just a laborer back in the day when he was framing houses. And I know a lot of the people in this branch. Brother David is a mason. Brother Pat was an electrician. I mean, there were so many parts and pieces that the Lord brought together to make this building happen. And it was really exciting. And Brother Michael was just sharing some of the volunteers. He was telling me about a gentleman 90 years old that came and did your beautiful wood stained doors, the trim around the doors, which is something I don't know how to do. So I mean, it's just beautiful how the Lord brought together so much talent and blessed that and even blessed our lack of talent above our own natural ability to have this come together. So appreciative for that. I also want to thank God, we're having a baptism in Mesa today. I don't know if any of you know Brother Luis and Sister Julia Pacheco, their grandson Eli Vargas is getting baptized today. He's about 21 years old, I believe. So that we were torn about where to go, whether to be here, whether to be there. But we're just really excited and blessed for that. But enough about thanking God. Because I want to ask you, and some of you were in my MBA a few weeks ago, and I'm going to go over this, and you might be familiar with this, but I'm going to take it a little further. I want to ask you, what's the last thing you complained about recently? What's the last thing you complained about? And I say that about myself, because I was just, Michael was just asking me, how's the Mesa branch going this morning? And I was like, well, it's going okay, but we're having some challenges, And I didn't tell him that we were having a baptism today. I forgot to mention the blessing that God blesses with that's bigger and better than any of the little challenges and things that always pop up here and there. I was maybe being a little bit of a whiner this morning. So, what's the last thing you could, it's just a rhetorical question. Does anybody know somebody who never seems to complain? What is it like to be around that person, and what makes them this way? I asked this question in my branch, and somebody said that Michelle's little brother, Ryan, never complains. Maybe she could attest to that or not, but they said that's his gift, is that he rolls with it. Whatever comes his way, he's always like, okay, and he rolls with it. And there's a blessing in that, I would say. So here's another question for you. Who complains more, rich people or poor people? Probably, whether you're rich or you're poor, maybe doesn't make a difference. Who complains more, healthy people or sick people? I bet you could find both cases. I bet you could find somebody that is suffering. Maybe you know somebody that is suffering with an illness that is really battling, and you wouldn't know it if you didn't know them personally, because they don't say it all the time. Not that it's always not a bad thing. Sometimes we need to express how we're feeling. Sometimes it's good to say, I'm really struggling, or I'm really hurting right now, or I'm really going through a hard time. But what I'd like to explore today is maybe what the difference is between just expressing our need or seeking a help or solution versus murmuring, being a murmurer. Because we know in the scriptures that there's examples of murmurers, even to the point where they murmured against the Lord. And it's surprising some of the people that got to that point, which some of the people you wouldn't expect to do that, which makes me think that, you know what? If I've done it, but I can look in the scripture and I can see that this prophet or this person, they did it, they're just as human as I am, and we can all make mistakes, and we all need the Lord. Okay? So, I want to share a little story about a family that was on a family trip. Has anyone ever taken a family trip? A family road trip, maybe? And you have I haven't got to this point yet. Our son's only 3 months old, so he can't talk yet. But I've heard famously that as you're driving on the trip, the kids like to say, "Are we there yet? Are we there? How long is this trip going to be? This is taking too long." You know, this is the complaining starts to come out. You know, that's okay. I mean, we're all human. It happens, right? Well, this is a family trip that happened when there was a prophet. It's in the Book of Mormon. His name was Lehi. And God told him that he needed to make a family trip. He needed to pack up. They lived in Jerusalem, and they were well off. They had a nice house. They had a lot of possessions. They were wealthy. And God told him, you need to take your whole family and you need to move. And it's going to be a long journey. In fact, it was more than 8 years of a journey. They didn't know it at the time. And so he went to his sons, he went to his kids, and he said, "Sons, do you think," he went to them and he said, "What do you think about taking an 8-year journey into the wilderness where we have no running water and we have no cooked food and we're going to live in a tent for the next 8 years? What do you think about that?" Do you think he asked them their opinion? He didn't. He just said, "All right, sons, pack up, we're going." Now, if you were a teenage boy and you had all your friends and you had all your nice house and maybe your school and you had maybe a girlfriend or someone you're interested in, and your dad just came to you and said, "The Lord told me in a dream that we need to leave because God's going to destroy this city because of the wickedness, and we're going tomorrow, pack it up, we're leaving." Do you think you'd be on board with that? Probably not. I don't think so. I probably would say, "Wait a second, I don't know if I like this plan." So, here's what happened. I'm going to go to 1 Nephi chapter 16. And do we have any hunters here? Anybody likes to hunt? Only one? Oh, we have a couple more here in the front row. I've never hunted in my life. I would die if I had to go and survive off the land. I'm not even good at camping. But they had to camp, they had to hunt for their food every day. And they didn't have rifles and scopes and that. No, they had bows and arrows, okay? Anybody ever done bow and arrow hunting? Really? All right. Little girl in the back says she has. Okay. What's your name? Marley thinks she's a bow and arrow hunter. All right. So it says, 1 Nephi 16:17, it says, "And we had traveled for the space of many days, and we did pitch our tents for the space of a time, that we might rest ourselves and obtain food for our families. And it came to pass that I, Nephi," he's our hero of the story, "went forth to slay food. Behold, I did break my bow, which was made of fine steel. And after I did break my bow, behold, my brothers were angry with me because of the loss of my bow, for we did obtain no food. And it came to pass that we did return without food to our families, being much fatigued because of their journeying, and they did suffer much for want of food." So, I want you to think, so here's the situation. This family has taken this journey following the direction of the Lord. It wasn't something easy, but they said, "Lord's calling us to do this, and we're going to do it." And yet, they've hit this setback. Yet they've hit something that could be devastating, because this is their only way to survive. This is their only way to get food, and it's been taken away from them. And they're saying, here I am, I'm doing what the Lord's told us to do, and yet we've had this situation that I don't even know how we're going to survive for the rest of the week. I don't even know how we're going to survive for the next couple days. I want to ask you, has the Lord ever taken you on a journey in your life? Maybe it's not a physical journey, but maybe it's a spiritual or an emotional journey through life. And I want to maybe use some other people that I almost feel hypocritical speaking up here, because I feel like there are more people in this room much more qualified to talk on this topic than myself. I know there's people in this room that have lost a loved one at a very young age. Even we went and sang for a family last night that lost someone in their 20s, very tragically. And I know that there's a family in this room that lost a sibling in their 20s in a very similar way, very tragically as well. That's a journey, an unexpected journey. I know that there's ones in this room that have battled with illnesses that they didn't seek or expect to come, that just come out of nowhere and blindsided them, and they're dealing with that. I know there's those that have dealt with and overcome issues with infertility and trying to start a family and having a plan and wanting to move forward with that plan, and all of a sudden they get a news, just like here where the bow's gone, where you say our only way of moving forward with our life the way that we expected it has been taken away from us, and I don't know how we're going to make it through the next week or the next month in our life. Hopefully you can think about in your life something that has come up that you didn't ask for, and maybe you feel like, Lord, I'm doing my best, I'm serving you, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and yet here I'm encountering this setback, and I don't know how we're going to survive. And I think about this bow that Nephi had, that it was his means of hunting. It was his means of solving the problem. And I almost wonder if that bow is almost like an analogy for us. Because I'm not a bow hunter, but I know that there's tension and you pull back on a bow and it bends and it bends, and it can only bend so far before it breaks, before it snaps. And maybe you can feel like either at this point in your life or at some point in your life, you've been under so much that you feel like you can't bend anymore and you've broken maybe. Maybe you've gotten to a point where you've just snapped and you feel like, I can't even make it any further. I don't know what to do. That's where this family was. They've left everything behind. They're in the middle of the wilderness. They're starving, and they don't have the means of getting their food anymore. So our natural reaction when something happens is we start to question, and we start to struggle, and we start to express that frustration or express our exasperation. And even that happened in this story, even with the heroes and the protagonists of this family. It says that in chapter 16, verse 20. It came to pass that Laman and Lemuel, now they're the older brothers, they're the disgruntled, mischievous, rebellious brothers, and they start to murmur, which is what we expect from them, unfortunately. It came to pass that Laman and Lemuel and the sons of Ishmael did begin to murmur exceedingly because of their sufferings and afflictions in the wilderness. But here's what we don't expect. And also my father began to murmur against the Lord his God. Yea, they were all exceedingly sorrowful, and they did even murmur against the Lord. Even Lehi, who was the prophet, who was the one that God told to leave Jerusalem, even he got to a point where he was so discouraged that he began to murmur against the Lord. Which makes me think that if it can happen to him, it can happen to me. I'm no better or any worse than anyone else. We can all get to that point. And one might ask, well, why would God allow this to happen to them? Why would God bring them to this point? Has God just forgotten them? Has God just maybe changed his mind? Maybe he doesn't really care about them like he said he does? These are maybe the doubts or the things that they could have had. Just like when the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness, And they started complaining, Lord, we were better off in Egypt and behind in our old life than, you brought us out here to die. Well, I know that those of you who have gone through something and come out on the other side and seen the light at the end of the tunnel and experienced the joy at the end of a trial know that that's not the case. And sometimes, as we'll see in this story, maybe God was bringing them to this point where their only last means of control over the situation, which was this bow, which they had for providing, was taken away, so that they had to completely and 100% surrender everything to Him. Completely surrender. You know what, Lord? I can't do it anymore. I recognize that of my own ability, there is literally no way that I can make it through this other than through your help. It says that, in verse 22, it says that it came to pass that I, Nephi, did speak much unto my brethren, because they had hardened their hearts, even to complaining against the Lord. And it came to pass that I, Nephi, did make out of wood a bow, and out of a straight stick an arrow, and I did arm myself with a bow and arrow, and with a sling and stones. And I said unto my father, Whither shall I go to obtain food? And it came to pass he did inquire of the Lord, for they had humbled themselves because of my word, for I did say many things unto them in the energy of my soul. It says that they had humbled themselves because of his word, but I believe that they had humbled themselves too because of their circumstance. They were just at a point where they realized that maybe their plan B was gone, and they had to completely surrender it to the Lord. I want to summarize this story. The Lord, they humble themselves, they pray to the Lord shows them where to go and to get food, and they are led to where to hunt, and they provide food, and they survive, and they make it on their journey. And the interesting thing is they continue on their journey. This is just interesting. It doesn't say that their journey all of a sudden got super easy and light, but if we skip to chapter 17, verse 1, it says that we did again take our journey in the wilderness, and we did travel from that time forth, and we did wade through much affliction in the wilderness, and our women did bear children in the wilderness. And so great were the blessings of the Lord upon us, that while we did live upon raw meat in the wilderness, our women did give plenty of suck for their children, and were strong, even like unto the men, and they began to bear their journeyings without murmuring. And thus we see the commandments of God must be fulfilled, and if it so be that the children of men keep the commandments of God, he doth nourish them and strengthen them, and provide the means whereby they can accomplish the thing which he had commanded them. And he did provide the means for us while we did sojourn in the wilderness. So they continued on their journey, and it wasn't easy, but yet he says that their perspective changed. He says that the blessings of the God were so strong upon them, were so great upon them, that they were strong, even the women were strong, like men, to march through the wilderness, even give children in the wilderness, which I have had the experience now of witnessing childbirth and the after effects. That is, my wife, that is certainly of the Lord, because my wife could barely even walk for some time after that child was born. So for them to be able to continue to walk through the wilderness with having born children, it truly was the hand of the Lord upon them. And he brought them to a beautiful land of promise that was flowing with milk and honey, that had everything for both natural and spiritually for their family's well-being. And the story ends up happy at the end. But the Lord was training them and strengthening them along the journey. So I want to just try and maybe reflect a little bit upon ourselves and what we're going through. And is there maybe something that the Lord is trying to show us or teach us or strengthen us through this? Or even when we're at a moment where we feel like, Lord, where are you? Why have you abandoned me? To know that he hasn't abandoned us, and that we don't even know the end of the story and where it may lead us. I was thinking about, again, we had our child recently, and there was a moment. There's many moments when my wife has expressed when she's up at the middle of the night, exasperated with this child that will not go to sleep, where she says, Lord, why hast thou forsaken me? Where she gets to that point of frustration. But one of those times was before the baby was born, when I had to go out of town for a week or more, 10 days, and leave her, as she was pregnant. And literally the day when I had to go out of town, she got a diagnosis that she had gestational diabetes, which is a diabetes that affects you when you're in pregnancy, and you have to be careful because it can make the baby have effects that can complicate the birth and delivery, and it's just stressful, and you feel like almost betrayed by your body, I guess. If you're a woman, you're like, what's going on? What did I do wrong? How did I cause this? Why is this happening? Is my baby going to be sick? Is the baby going to be okay? Literally, as I'm leaving and walking out the door, she gets this news. And thanks be to God, she made it through. There was a sister of the church that was inspired that very day to send her a recording of the Songs of Zion from the brothers and sisters in Mexico singing the Songs of Zion, that didn't know that she was in this dark moment of her life that brought her hope and encouragement in this moment. And there was other sisters that were inspired to speak with her and share that things were going to be okay, that the Lord was going to provide, that they made it through. But she made it through. We had the delivery, and yet she was wondering, why, Lord? Why did I have to go through that? It doesn't always happen this way, but in this instance, a month or so ago, her mother was diagnosed with pre-type 2 diabetes. That the doctor said, you are on the borderline of diabetes, and actually, and her mother asked the doctor, what do I have to do? What can I do to try and be healthier? And the doctor said, really, there's nothing you can do. You're going to need to take medication. We're going to see you in a month. Your numbers are going to go up, and we're going to put you on meds. And her mom was just depressed and just deflated for the next 3 days because of this diagnosis. And she went to the ministry and had hands laid on her and expressed her concern. She didn't want to have to go on medication. And my wife, who had gone through this gestational diabetes, was able to go to her mom and coach her and say, this is the device that you need to buy, this monitor that I'm going to show you how to put it on. I'm going to show you how I monitored my blood sugar while I was going through this, how you can monitor your blood sugar, and here's the diet regime that I went on, and you can see as you eat each different foods how it affects your monitor. And with the prayers of the brothers and sisters in the ministry, we're going to trust and we're going to see how this goes for you. And she was able to coach her mom through this process, and that when her mom started discovering which foods were making her sick and which ones were okay for her to eat, and she went to the doctor last week, and the doctor said, I'm literally dumbfounded. I literally don't know what to say. I've never seen this before, where your numbers, that you were borderline diabetic, you're now borderline normal. Perfect. I've never seen, what did you do? And she said, I went to the ministry, and I had hands laid on me, and I did my best to care for my body, and I want to praise God that He took care of me. And so that trial that my wife went through, and her dark moment, and she says, why is this happening to me? A few months later, turns around, and she's able to turn around and help her mother and take her through a trial, and the Lord's able to bring a blessing out of it. And sometimes we don't always see that quickly of a turnaround of why the Lord brings us through something, and then that positive solution that comes out. But isn't it beautiful then when we see that? And sometimes it's a long journey. Sometimes it's a long turnaround. Sometimes it can take years. But the Lord is caring for us and watching over us. I wanted to bring this full circle and say, well, what do I do when I find myself and it's just negativity coming out of me? Because I'm there sometimes. Lord, I'm tired. Lord, this is hard. Lord, why is this happening to me? And actually, my wife had some words of counsel for me that I believe also outlined in the scriptures. she said that she was taught by a Christian counselor, that a friend that she goes to, that when you say, Lord, I'm tired, I'm so tired, and it's okay to express that, how you feel. But actually, let me take it one step back. Sometimes we just say, I'm tired, I can't do this. She says, comma, add in there, comma, Lord. So, I'm tired, I can't do this, Lord. So instead of just expressing it out there, redirect it, I'm tired, I can't do this, Lord. Bring it to Him. And then say, but, I'm tired, I can't do this anymore, Lord. But, I know that you are faithful. Lord, I'm tired, I can't do this, but I know that you won't forsake me. I know that your promises are true. So we express how we're feeling, we express what we're going through, but then we turn it around and we bring it to Him and we put it before His feet. You know, our hero Nephi even had a moment when he was down, when he was low. And he said his psalm in 2 Nephi 4. Express how he's feeling down, how he's feeling low. He's in 2 Nephi 4:17, notwithstanding the great goodness of the Lord in showing me His great and marvelous works, my heart exclaims, O wretched man that I am, my heart sorroweth because of my flesh, my soul grieveth because of my iniquities. He felt sorrowful. He felt grieving. He said, I'm encompassed about because of the temptations and the sins which do so easily beset me. How many of you feel like sometimes you're just surrounded by temptations that you can't overcome, or that you've just fallen over and over again because you're surrounded by those temptations? And he says in 19, when I desire to rejoice, my heart groans because of my sins. So he's expressing how he feels. But then, that comes in, Lord, but. Nevertheless, he says. And then he says, nevertheless. That's his switch. He doesn't end it on the negative, but he's going to turn it into glorying and thanksgiving to the Lord. Nevertheless, I know whom I have trusted. My God hath been my support. He hath led me through mine afflictions in the wilderness. He's remembering when his bow broke and he felt like he was at the end and he couldn't take another step, and the Lord provided and showed him where to go to get food. He's remembering his afflictions in the wilderness. He has preserved me upon the waters of the great deep. He hath filled me with His love, even unto the consuming of my flesh. Despite how my body was feeling in that moment, my spirit was soaring. He's confounded mine enemies unto causing them to quake before me. He's heard my cry by day and given me knowledge and visions by the night. And by day I have waxed bold in mighty prayer before Him. And my voice have I sent on high, and angels came down and ministered unto me. Upon the wings of His Spirit hath my body been carried away on exceeding high mountains, and my eyes have beheld great things, even too great for man. Therefore I was bidden that I should not write them. Oh then, if I have seen so great things, and if the Lord in His condescension unto the children of men has visited men in so much mercy, why should my heart weep, and my soul linger in the valley of sorrow, and my flesh waste away? And why should my strength slacken because of my afflictions? Why should I yield to sin because of my flesh? Why should I give way to temptations that the evil one hath placed in my heart to destroy my peace and afflict my soul? Why am I angry because of my enemy? And this is the most beautiful verse here. He says, awake, my soul, no longer droop in sin. Rejoice, O my heart, and give place no more for the enemy of my soul. I just want us to remember that wherever you are, wherever you're going through, if you feel like you're to a point where you've bent as far as you can, and you're at the point where you've broken even, and you don't know how you're going to get to the next day, that the Lord is faithful. And we can reflect upon testimonies in our own lives, testimonies in the lives of our brothers and sisters, how He has brought them through, how He's been good and faithful to them. Even thinking about in this time of Christmas, Mary and Joseph, they were also on a journey, right? They had a family trip they had to take, an unexpected family trip, where they got news that, all right, you're at the point of delivery, you're at the point of having birth. Again, thinking about having to give birth to children in the wilderness. But you need to go to Bethlehem and travel so many days. I don't know if she walked. I don't know if she rode a donkey. I don't know. But you're going to have to go there, and you don't have a place to stay. And you're going to have to try and find a stable to spend the night in on the day of your delivery. You know, there's no hospitals. There's no, what do they call that needle that they stick in your back? There's no epidural. And you're going to care for that baby, and he's going to keep you up at night, and he's going to cry, and he's probably going to get a cold, and he's probably going to, maybe he's going to slobber all over you just like any other baby. But when the angel came to her and said, Mary, this is what the Lord's got for you. And she says, behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to thy word. And the angel departed from her. I just think that it's beautiful and it's inspiring, these words, that we can see that even our heroes and men and women in the scriptures went through things, and yet the Lord was faithful to them, and we can see through them that He'll be faithful to us. So may God bless you all, love you all, and have a Merry, Merry Christmas.
Yet in thy dark street shine the everlasting light, the hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. Christ is born of Mary, and gathered all above. Our Lord is King, the angels do like to share a testimony of God's goodness. No complaining today.